And it doesn't work like that. You see, these are your basic God-given bents, and of course at certain times, even though I'm a very strong just do it, at certain times I can play it by ear. We can all do that. But it's your basic God-given bent, and it doesn't change, and you can't be, well, I'm a little of this and a little of that, or you are truly weird if you were that messed up. So let me give you an overview of these. The SJs people, these people crave structure. They want everything structured. The NTs, they crave skillfulness. The NFs, significance. They need to belong, they need to contribute. The SPs, they crave spontaneity. Going back to the SJs, these are the servants of society. These are the people who work in the large bureaucracies and the insurance companies and the governments and all of that. They are the servants of society. The NTs, they are the strivers. The NFs, the phlegmatics, they are the seekers. In fact, my daughter is one of these, my youngest daughter, and I told her this week, I said, your basic goal in life is to have a goal. And she said, yes, that's me. They are the seekers, always seeking. And then the SPs, they are the spenders of life. Just no savings account necessary, man. Just burn it up today because tomorrow you die. Then another word for the SJs to put in there, they are the Boy Scouts of society. Let me help you across the street, but I don't want to cross the street. Well, you need to cross the street. Let me help you. The NTs, these are the builders. The NFs, these are the buddies, everybody's friend. The SPs, these are the bikers, as I told you. The ones just, you know, in life. Absolutely. Now, it's interesting to me that each one of these four temperaments have a key player in the New Testament who is clearly one of them. The SJ in the Bible is John. The NT is the Apostle Paul. The NF is Timothy, and the sanguine, the SP, what do you guess? Oh, it's already on the screen. Peter. Apostle Peter, the guy that's always got his foot in his mouth, always ready for a great time. I don't know what you guys are doing, but I'm going fishing. You know, that was Peter. Well, today we're going to look at this NT, and there are far fewer of the NTs in the world than any of the others. It's a good thing. They're typically not very well liked until after they are dead. Some famous MTs, Jefferson, Lincoln, Eisenhower, Douglas MacArthur, Peter the Great, Margaret Thatcher, Napoleon, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Darwin, Einstein. See, nobody likes them till they're gone. But they're 5 to 7% of the population, and their personality trait is made up primarily of the N, which stands for the innovator, and the T for the thinker. And their deepest emotional need is competence, understanding, and leadership. Now, there are 4 different combinations of these letters, of course, that would make them up. That would be the INTJ, the ENTJ, the INTP, and the ENTP. And that really is irrelevant unless you're really up on this. But let's look at their positives. What are the positives of these guys? There are some. First, they are the strivers and drivers. The NTs are highly motivated, goal-setting individuals who can't imagine a single day without a goal. In fact, an hour without a goal really bothers them. They're tenacious and persistent. They are typically successful at whatever vocation they choose, not because they're more gifted, but because they are relentless. Wherever they work, wherever they go, whatever they do, they strive for excellence. It's just part of their bent. You can see this in the Apostle Paul. In Philippians chapter 4, verse 13, you've heard the verse before. It says, forgetting the past and looking forward to what lies ahead, I strain to reach the end of the race and to receive the prize. Now, everybody loves that verse, but I can tell you that whenever an NT reads that verse, they go, yeah, because it's right out of their heart and soul. They don't know how to relax. They thrive on activity. They live in a world of work. Work is work. Play is work. Even recreation is work. They can't just go out and kind of through the day of a recreational thing. They are driven to improve. They have a mental stopwatch that is always running on their performance. And so they're striving to do whatever it is a little bit better, a little bit faster, a little bit harder. They can't just swim laps. They must swim at least one more lap than last time. They can't just ski. They have to have better form or a faster time than last time. They can't just read a book. They've got to read it more quickly than they've ever read a book before. So these are poor, pathetic, driven people. Second thing to jot down about them is a compulsion for competence. I think you have to click that twice to get it. They don't just desire competence. They must be competent at whatever they do, and they'll settle for nothing less. If they can't do it well, they simply won't do it. Their goal is perfection, and anything less than perfection, and they feel like failure. Even if it was a 98% on a test, they will still inside badger themselves over errors. They'll be haunted by, you should have known better, you should have done better. They are never willing to repeat an error again. In fact, it is often on their lips or in their heart, I will never let that happen again. And by nature, they evaluate everything and everyone by various levels of competence. And if you criticize them, they're going to look to your credentials and your level of competence before they will listen to anything that you have to say. Because somebody who is incompetent at anything will never get a hearing from them. Third thing to just jot down. See, they're bad, aren't they? Aren't you glad there's only 5%? Natural-born leaders. The NTs of the world are either the generals and the CEOs or the crooks and the crime lords, but never anything in between. They are typically optimistic. No challenge is too great. The greater the challenge, the more they're up for it. The little phrase that's often on posters, if you aren't the lead dog, the view never changes, that was written by an NT. They are typically coolly objective and straightforward, rarely nervous. They find it easy to make decisions for themselves and anyone else who hesitates in the decision process. Their theme is lead, follow, or get out of the way. They are always willing to cut their losses, to move ahead. They're quick to recognize opportunities and figure out a way to exploit them. And generally, they have a very strong following because people either love them or hate them, but nobody is indifferent toward them. Fourth thing to jot down, they're strong-willed, as you could imagine. They thrive on opposition. The more you oppose them, the more tenacious they will become. They're not the least bit frightened by adversaries. In fact, if there's an adversary, they are stimulated to work that much harder. Be done. And that's why I tell you, these guys are either off the chart in performance or they are under the table because they are so driven that they are not going to be persuaded. The last thing that we could say that's kind of good about them is that they have a passion for the practical. They have little interest in theory unless it translates directly into reality. Very little interest in philosophy or abstract stuff. They consider it irrelevant. They are just driven individuals. So what are the pitfalls? Well, you've already seen them, really, but let's just jot down a few because some of you have to live with these people. The pitfalls of them, first, too self-sufficient. If you want it done right, do it yourself, was written by an NT, no doubt. They're very independent thinkers and takers of action. It's easy for them to become lone rangers. Truth is, they don't need strong emotional support any place or from anyone. And you really can't even course correct them unless you are highly competent and respected at what you do. Now, if you have a child who's an NT, by the age of 2, you'll begin to notice an extremely independent spirit. Whether it's feeding themselves earlier than the books say they should or riding a bike sooner, they do everything sooner than all the other kids because fear is not a natural element of their temperament. Second thing about them, too stubborn. They're bullheaded and focused, and they have an agenda. And that is the earmark of these folks, self-sufficient, stubborn, and then write this one down, emotionally stunted. This is the most thick-skinned temperament of the 4. They do not naturally sympathize with others. They're not quick to show or express compassion. They're not in tune with the feelings of others around them. They are often considered inconsiderate, cruel, cold, calculating. They will run over people and not even know it and certainly didn't mean it. When talking to them, sometimes the people that are talking to the NTs will feel a little bit distant or attached. Often when somebody's talking to me on a personal level and they'll start sharing it as they do, I can see from their face, because I've really fought to overcome these awful deficiencies that I have, but as I'm fighting to kind of listen and work, I'll see in their face this, okay, I'm finished because Dave obviously isn't listening. And many times I say, no, I'm listening, I'm processing the information. And that's the honest to God truth. That you're listening, and then that's what this NT will do. They'll go, and they're figuring out, okay, what are we going to do about this? And then when somebody attacks them for being insensitive, they are bewildered. You're kidding, insensitive. How could you say that? I've given my life to this or to that. And that's the story of the new T. Remember Dr. Pepper, Mr. Misunderstood, and that's really a good description of these folks. Fourth flaw, brutally direct. Oh, they're bad. They will speak their mind, and they will be the most brutal in the selection of their words. And because they're bent toward a critical thinking perspective, and they're not very sensitive emotionally, they will say things that others would only think but never say. In fact, it's often said of them, I can't believe he said that. And their competitive spirit fosters a take-no-prisoners mentality. And as children, the NTs love sports and competition. So do the SPs, by the way. But the NTs, they love sports and competition. They have a driving compulsion to win. And they are very poor losers. And even if they don't throw a fit on the outside and they've lost at something or didn't do as well as they thought, it'll bug them for days as they replay the tapes in their mind of how they could have done it better. And if they feel they're right, it'll make no difference to them who you are, because they will speak their mind. Now, every kid will say things that are mean from time to time, but if you have an NT child, they will be the coldest, cruelest in their saying of things to one another. They will go for the jugular of another child and not even blink an eye of any emotion. And so they really need good parents. Fourth problem with them is they're inclined towards arrogance. They don't struggle with self-esteem. I still remember in junior high suddenly hearing teachers talk about self-image and problems with self-image, and honest, I had no idea what they were talking about. You mean everybody doesn't just accept themselves the way they are? And because competence is king and they strive for it, it's easy for them to become arrogant and prideful. And that confidence that they often have creates a feeling of fear or inferiority or insecurity in others sometimes. And their natural optimistic attitude can leave them looking pretty smug. And then there's a tendency towards anger. When prevented from achieving a goal, the most common reaction of an NT is anger. If you cross swords with them and God's Spirit isn't in control of them, you will catch the vent of their anger, and it'll typically be in some pretty direct words. Now, if you have one of these as a child, what do? Send them to reform school. It's real simple. Just ship them. Now, what do? Here are the things that have to happen for the NT to become something valuable. Number one, break their will early. You must win the war of the wills. If you have not broken their will by the preteen years, they will break your heart, guarantee it. And because they have that cold, calculating sense of just moving on in life, they will write parents off faster than any other people group, and you may lose them forever. And if you're part of a two-parent family, then one of the most important things that you can do when you have a child of an NT is always promote the other parent's success stories. Continue to build the other parent up in the eyes of the NT child, because NT children highly value competence. And all of this will enable you to get through that stubborn will and to break it early. Third thing, give them responsibility early. They will look for it the earliest of any temperament. When they look for it, give it to them. Any area where they're not going to physically hurt themselves and they want to take responsibility, give it to them. And let them live with the results. Don't bail them out. Because you see, they learn best from their failures. And they run the tapes over and over again. Oh, I'll never do that again. Fourth thing, teach them humility early. They must learn. And then last thing, teach them kindness and compassion. Never tolerate harsh words from an NT child. And never retaliate with harsh words. Why? Because they love a contest. And they would love to just take you on in a war of words. So for the NT, when they vent with harsh words, the best thing for them is, you're out of here, kid, time out, think about it, and remove something very, very precious to them, whether it's television time or a skateboard or a bicycle or whatever it might be. Because see, when they miss something they love, they're going to replay the tapes. Why can't I have my skateboard? It's because I couldn't control my trap.